Something is brewing inside the Cleveland Browns organization, and it's about to explode. Not just because of the losses, not just because of the lifeless offense, but because one decision or refusal to make it is about to change the future of this franchise forever. For weeks, Browns fans have watched their team spiral into irrelevance, stuck in neutral while the rest of the league flies by. And at the heart of it all is a quarterback controversy, so tense, so baffling, it's ignited whispers across locker rooms, headlines on talk shows, and panic behind closed doors in Berea. The Browns have a problem, and it's not just about who's starting. The real question, why is the one player everyone believes could save this season still sitting on the bench, untouched, ignored, and maybe even silenced? Because this isn't just another story about a rookie wasting away behind a struggling starter, this is something deeper. A coaching staff clinging to damage control, a fan base forced to relive a nightmare they know all too well, and a young quarterback, son of a legend, caught in the middle of it all, just waiting for the moment the franchise finally reaches its breaking point. And trust me, that moment is coming, sooner than anyone expected. What started as a gamble on a mid-round rookie is now playing out like a full-blown disaster in real time. When the Browns used a third-round pick on Dylan Gabriel, no one expected instant greatness. But no one expected this level of collapse either. His rookie season hasn't just been rough, it's been downright hard to watch. And now, the cracks in the experiment are turning into deep fractures, with the entire fan base watching helplessly as the season slides into chaos. Dylan Gabriel isn't just underperforming, he's unraveling. Each week, the Browns trot him out under center, and each week, the same nightmare plays out. Overthrown slants, missed wide-open receivers, panic in the pocket, hesitation followed by poor decisions. Even the most basic fundamentals of quarterback play, timing, footwork, reading the field, seem just out of reach, and at this level in this league, you can't hide from that. Against professional defenses, you'll get exposed. And exposed is exactly what's happened. Gabriel's throwing mechanics haven't held up. His ball placement on simple checkdowns is sporadic. What should be routine completions have turned into stalled drives, and stalled drives have become a normal part of the Browns' offense. You can't move the chains if your quarterback can't hit a 10-yard out consistently. You can't win games if your offense looks like it's running in mud every Sunday. The numbers tell part of the story: a subpar completion percentage, a touchdown-to-interception ratio that raises eyebrows, and a QBR ranking near the bottom of the league. But the eye test? That's even more damning. Gabriel looks overwhelmed. Lost. There's no command, no spark, no presence. He plays like a guy who knows he's in over his head, and worse, looks like he's waiting for it all to collapse. And this isn't just a work through the rookie mistakes kind of slump. Not when the errors are fundamental. Not when your footwork is inconsistent. Not when you can't read disguised coverage. Not when the same mistakes happen week after week. At that point, you're not learning. You're confirming the worst fears of every scout who passed on you. It's not that Dylan Gabriel didn't have potential, but that potential is now buried under 9 weeks of evidence that screams one thing: he's not ready. And some around the league are starting to whisper that he may never be. Meanwhile, Browns fans are at a breaking point, and who can blame them? They've been here before. Over and over. Quarterback after quarterback. From Tim Couch to Brady Quinn. From Johnny Manziel to DeShone Kizer. Cleveland has a history of convincing itself that maybe this guy will be different. And yet, every time, the same result: disappointment, false hope that fades into frustration almost overnight. And now, with Gabriel, it feels like déjà vu, only this time, there's another option sitting silently on the bench. Making it all worse is how visibly frustrated the team is becoming. Check the sidelines during games. Receivers shaking their heads after bad throws, offensive linemen reacting to blown reads, coaches looking skyward after yet another 3 and out. This isn't just bad football. This is a locker room being dragged down by uncertainty and stagnation at the most important position on the field. And Kevin Stefanski? He's sticking by his guy, at least publicly. He keeps saying Gabriel is progressing, that he's learning, that this is part of the process. But every game tells a different story. Every snap seems to bring the Browns closer to collapsing entirely. And the trust between the locker room, the fan base, and the front office? It's slipping fast. The situation has gone from manageable to combustible. Fans aren't just upset, they're insulted. Every Sunday feels like more of the same. Uninspired offense, minimal urgency, zero identity. And all with another quarterback, a promising one, with NFL DNA and proven college production just standing there, waiting for a chance. It's gotten to the point where Gabriel isn't just losing games, he's losing the crowd. And in a city like Cleveland, where football is religion, that kind of hostile environment doesn't fade, it erupts. The chant is coming. The calls for change are getting louder. And if Gabriel takes the field again this Sunday and delivers yet another dud, it won't just be boos echoing through the stadium, it'll be a message aimed directly at Stefanski, at the front office, and at anyone who still thinks this is salvageable. Because this experiment, it's not just failing, it's falling apart. If Dylan Gabriel represents the Browns' current frustration, then Shadur Sanders represents their future curiosity, the kind of curiosity that makes entire fan bases hold their breath and hope, even after years of heartbreak. He isn't just another backup quarterback. He's the son of NFL royalty, the product of a family where pressure isn't an obstacle, it's the standard. Growing up as the son of Deion Primetime, Sanders doesn't come lightly. And Shedeur? He embraced it. Where other quarterbacks fade in the spotlight, Shedeur grew up under stadium lights, playing high school football with cameras following his every move, leading Jackson State under the coaching eyes of his Hall of Fame father, and eventually making national headlines at Colorado, where he put on a show every Saturday in front of millions. Shedeur was never just good. He was electrifying, composed, deadly, and unshakably confident. At every level, he's shown something that Dylan Gabriel hasn't command. He doesn't flinch, he doesn't panic, and more importantly, he leads. At Colorado, it wasn't just the numbers. Though, let's be clear, those numbers were ridiculous. He threw for over 3,200 yards, stacked 27 touchdowns, and kept his interception count criminally low, all while playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football. He was constantly under pressure, taking hits that would rattle even veteran players, and still, he stood tall in the pocket and made plays that turned broken downs into SportsCenter highlights. Coaches noticed, scouts noticed, the media noticed, and heading into the 2024 NFL Draft, he was everywhere. Early mock drafts had him projected as a late first-rounder. Analysts were comparing his pocket awareness and accuracy to NFL starters. He was praised for having one of the quickest releases in college football, a rare trait that separates elite passers from project QBs. But then, something strange happened. Despite all the hype, all the tape, and all the tools, Shedeur's name kept slipping. Round 1 passed, then round 2, nothing. Round 3, still no call. By round 4, NFL Twitter was in shock. Some fans were screaming, "Steal." Others whispered something more damning. Was there something teams knew that we didn't? Regardless, he dropped, all the way to the 5th round, where the Cleveland Browns finally picked him up with the 144th overall selection. A player who had once been the talk of the combine, now labeled as developmental. But what every other team saw as a risk, the Browns had a chance to turn into a franchise-changing move. They didn't draft a throwaway. They drafted one of the most high-profile, high-upside quarterbacks in the class, and then they buried him. From day one, Kevin Stefanski made it clear, Dylan Gabriel was the plan, and Shedeur, he became a nice-to-have, a clipboard carrier, an afterthought, someone you might throw in if things got really bad. Well, how much worse does it need to get? Fans see what's happening. They know exactly what Shadur Sanders is, a young quarterback with pedigree, production, and poise. They're not just hoping he's good, they're dying to find out if he might be great. Because if there's one thing we're sure of, it's this: Shadur Sanders doesn't fold. He's been counted out before, in high school, in college, even now, by 31 NFL decision-makers who didn't take a chance on him. But the moment you put a football in his hands, something changes. The game slows down, the teammates rally, and the offense finally starts to look like it believes in itself. All this time, that spark has been sitting on the bench, helmet on, eyes sharp, waiting, watching, learning everything, saying nothing. And to his credit, Shedeur's done everything right. No complaints, no media tantrums, no subtle shots at the coaching staff. Just work day after day like a pro, like someone who knows his chance is coming. The question is no longer, will he play? It's when. Because no matter how much Stefanski tries to delay the inevitable, the pressure is mounting. The fans want it, the media is asking for it. Even the whispers inside the locker room are starting to get louder. The Browns have seen enough of what doesn't work. And now? They're ready to see what's possible. Here's where the story takes a hard left, not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. You'd think that when your team is collapsing offensively and your highly drafted rookie quarterback is struggling to complete routine passes, turning to your intriguing fifth-round backup would be the obvious move. Logical, sensible, basic organizational survival. But in Cleveland, nothing about this timeline has made sense. Let's rewind. It started long before Week 1. Back in training camp, it was supposed to be an open quarterback competition. 3 names were in the mix: Dylan Gabriel, the rookie who the front office reportedly believed in, Kenny Pickett, the veteran acquirer from Pittsburgh, and the dark horse Shadur Sanders, fresh off his athletic showcase at Colorado. Fans expected fireworks. Instead, silence. That so-called competition fizzled fast. Pickett left the team under vague circumstances before the season even kicked off. Suddenly, the field narrowed, but rather than let Shedeur step forward, Stefanski doubled down on Gabriel immediately. Every chance to start rotating reps? Ignored. Every opportunity to bump Shedeur up the depth chart? Avoided. It wasn't just a snub, it was a statement. We're not even thinking about it. Then came the next red flag. Week 5. The Browns release veteran Joe Flacco, a quarterback who had brought a little spark, a little poise, and actual results the year prior. When Flacco was cut, many assumed the strategy was obvious: promote Sanders, let him absorb real backup reps. Start incorporating packages, maybe even prepare for a potential switch. Instead, nothing. Again, the Browns kicked the can down the road. Gabriel remained the unquestioned starter, even as the team's offense continued to unravel, and Sanders, still, was just there, present but unused. Hinted at, but never deployed. And with every week that passed, Cleveland's frustration morphed into disbelief. Because here's the thing. Quarterback development isn't just theory. It's about touches, reps, pressure, pacing. You can't evaluate what a guy can do by keeping him glued to the bench while the offense flatlines. And you certainly can't make informed off-season decisions about the most important position in football without seeing what you have first. So, what gives? That's exactly what fans, analysts, and even opposing teams have started to ask. Why has Sanders been treated like an invisible third-stringer when Cleveland has every reason to see what he can do? There's no injury, no behavior issues, no locker room concerns. The guy's been a perfect teammate, a diligent pro, and by all accounts, one of the hardest workers in the building. Browns fans aren't conspiracy theorists. They're just observant, and they're watching every other struggling team in the NFL start to pivot toward their rookie QBs. Teams far better positioned than Cleveland are letting their young guys take the field, take their lumps, and learn on the job. So, why is Cleveland ignoring that model? Why is a team with nothing to lose playing it like it has everything on the line? The truth? It's looking more and more like this isn't just about quarterback performance, it might be about coaching image. A stubborn system. An immovable plan. Kevin Stefanski has stuck by Gabriel like a captain who refuses to abandon ship even as it sinks right out from under him. And while loyalty can be admirable, it also becomes dangerous when it starts tipping over into denial, because denial is exactly what this feels like now. Week after week, the game plan doesn't change. The gamble on Gabriel is clearly failing. The hopes are fading. But instead of course-correcting, Stefanski keeps pressing repeat betting on a player who's shown he's not ready, while ignoring the one quarterback that fans desperately want to see. It's not just a missed opportunity, it's organizational self-sabotage. And at this point, it's not just about giving Shedeur a shot, it's about gathering critical data. With the offseason looming and 2 first-round picks on the horizon, the Browns need real answers. Stat sheets, game film, pressure scenarios, proof. Because if Shadur Sanders isn't the guy, they need to know that now, not after wasting another 6 months of off-season planning based on guesswork. But as strange as this whole timeline has been, there's one more twist no one saw coming. An insider, one who rarely goes public with bold takes, has now shattered the silence. And what he just said about Cleveland's quarterback situation might change everything. Behind every NFL controversy, there's a moment where the silence breaks, where the carefully crafted public messaging gets shattered by one insider who says what everyone else is afraid to. That moment just happened in Cleveland. Respected CBS Sports analyst and veteran insider Jonathan Jones didn't tiptoe around it. He didn't hedge. He didn't lean on vague language like, "it's possible," or "maybe we'll see something change." He dropped a bombshell and then he doubled down on it. When asked point blank whether Shadur Sanders would get a shot this season, Jones didn't flinch. "There's a 100% chance he'll play," he said, then paused and added, "98% chance he starts a game before the season's over." And just as fast, he corrected himself again. "Actually 100%. No backpedaling, no ifs, no fluff. Just straight-up truth from a plugged-in name with a reputation for measured, accurate reporting." And just like that, the situation shifted. What the Browns organization has spent months tiptoeing around what the coaching staff stubbornly refused to acknowledge is now out in the open. An official, public, national-level confirmation that the Sanders era is coming, whether Kevin Stefanski is ready for it or not. But here's the part that hit harder than anything else, Jones said: his reasoning. He didn't talk about potential, or excitement, or development. He talked about reality. The Browns are 2-7, dead last in the division, mathematically eliminated from playoff relevance before Thanksgiving, running an offense that's delivering less than 17 points per game. There's no case for staying the course. No future in repeating failure. And now, with the entire season circling the drain, Jones asked the question that Browns fans have been screaming for weeks. What possible reason is there not to play Shadur Sanders at this point? He's right. And deep down, the Browns know he's right. Shadur needs reps. Real game reps. Not training camp drills. Not preseason highlights. He needs to feel an NFL defense blitzing him at full speed. He needs to throw third and long darts with the crowd roaring. He needs to prove or disprove whether he's a quarterback worth building around. Because without that data, the Browns are flying blind into one of the most important offseasons in franchise history. Why? Because this team, as battered and inconsistent and dysfunctional as it's been, still holds a powerful card: 2 first-round picks in the 2025 draft. That's gold in NFL strategy. But it only matters if you know what you need. If Shedeur shows flashes of high-ceiling talent, those picks can fuel an offensive line upgrade, wide receiver depth, an elite pass rusher, the kind of pieces that turn promising quarterbacks into playoff contenders. But if he stumbles, if he freezes under the lights or collapses under the playbook, then fine, that truth becomes equally valuable. Because you know it's time to spend that first-round capital on a marquee quarterback in the draft, rather than wasting 2 years trying to force a square peg into a round huddle. This isn't just about excitement, it's about evaluation. And that's why Jonathan Jones's comments have hit like a thunderclap inside the building. Because now the pressure isn't just coming from the fans, it's coming from national media, inside sources, and league-wide credibility. Every day that Sanders stays on the bench now feels like a decision soaked in ego and fear, not football sense. And here's the dangerous part for Kevin Stefanski. If he waits too long to make the change, and Sanders eventually comes in and lights up the field, that's an indictment not just of Gabriel, but of Stefanski himself. It's no longer just about saving face. Now it's about accountability. Why didn't you give Sanders a shot sooner? Why did you bury one of the most talked about rookie quarterbacks when your offense was clearly broken? And worst of all, were you protecting your job at the expense of the team's future? Because if that's the narrative Stefanski allows to grow, that he avoided playing Sanders, not because of poor performance, but because he feared what it might say about his poor decisions, then this won't just cost him a season. It'll cost him the locker room, the fan base, and most likely, his job. The Browns already know what Dylan Gabriel is, but what Shadur Sanders might be, that remains the most important mystery in the building, one they no longer have the luxury of ignoring. And now, with a brutal matchup against Lamar Jackson and the red-hot Ravens looming, that mystery might be forced into the spotlight real soon. On the surface, it looks like a simple football decision. The starting quarterback isn't getting it done, so give the backup, especially a high-upside rookie, a shot. But in Cleveland, nothing is ever just about football. Not when Kevin Stefanski is coaching like a man with something to protect. Because when you really dig into this situation, it isn't just about Dylan Gabriel's struggles. It's about why Stefanski can't seem to let go of a broken plan. And the truth is darker than bad play calling or weekly game prep. It's about politics, perception, and maybe more than anything, self-preservation. From an outsider's perspective, Stefanski looks like a coach who's lost his locker room, but not his grip on narrative control. Every press conference paints a strangely delusional picture. We're building. There's progress. Gabriel just needs more time. It almost sounds reasonable until you watch the games. Then you realize something bigger is happening. Stefanski doesn't just want to win. He wants to be right. If he benches Dylan Gabriel now, it's an admission, a silent confession that he backed the wrong guy not just this season, but from the start. That the quarterback he chose, developed, and defended simply isn't capable of delivering wins in the NFL. That makes Gabriel more than just a struggling player. That makes him a symbol of Stefanski's judgment, and that's dangerous. Because once you start unraveling that thread, once you admit you're wrong about your quarterback, don't think it stops there. Now, people start questioning your entire process. Why this offense has no direction, why personnel decisions have been erratic, why the team can't close out games, why the city of Cleveland is watching yet another year disappear before Christmas. So Stefanski keeps doubling down, clinging to Gabriel and hoping for a breakout performance that just refuses to come. Not because it makes sense, but because it delays the consequences. Because here's where it gets really uncomfortable for the Browns. What if Shadur Sanders comes in and plays well immediately? Forget winning games. What if he just looks sharp, confident, mobile, decisive the way fans expect from a former standout at Colorado who soaked in the game from birth under Deion Sanders? What if he leads a few long drives, hits some explosive plays, even throws a couple touchdowns? What happens then? It becomes an instant stain on Stefanski's entire season. Why didn't he go to Shedeur sooner? How much time and how many winnable games were wasted before making the obvious move? Suddenly, this isn't just a quarterback controversy, it's a coaching crisis. And unfortunately for Stefanski, the optics are already turning against him. The media is asking harder questions. The fans have stopped being patient and started being vocal. Analysts on national shows are now framing his decisions as stubborn, maybe even fearful. Because there's another side to this coin. What if Sanders doesn't play well? Well, then Stefanski gets a safety net. He can point to that performance and say, "See? This is why we waited. This is why we stuck with Gabriel." Sanders isn't ready either. He buys time. He buys cover. But it only works if he waits until after the season's effectively over. It's a twisted logic loop, but make no mistake, this is politics, pure and simple. Coaches don't just coach, they campaign. Even inside the NFL, there are narratives to manage, decisions to justify, and jobs to protect. And right now, Stefanski is clinging to one of the last storylines that still paints him as a coach with a plan, even when every loss proves otherwise. But here's where it backfires. The longer he avoids the inevitable, the more he loses the one group he can't afford to alienate the fans. Cleveland's fan base isn't clueless or reactionary. They've endured years of disappointment, and they know what bad football looks like. They're not just watching plays, they're watching patterns. And now, they're starting to believe what seemed unthinkable last year, that the coach of the year might actually be dragging this team down. With every game Gabriel starts, Stefanski digs deeper into a hole that fans believe he wouldn't have to be in if he had just made the switch. And if the rumors swirling inside the building are true, change is coming because ownership? They're paying attention too. Reports suggest that Jimmy Haslam is growing increasingly frustrated with the direction of the team. And if the Browns get humiliated again this Sunday, especially with Lamar Jackson lighting up the scoreboard across the field, the curtain might finally drop. Stefanski knows what's coming. Sanders knows it too. And the fans? They're done watching excuses. Now they want answers. And more than anything, they want a new quarterback. This Sunday, everything could change inside Cleveland Browns Stadium. Not with a press conference, not with a trade, not even with a statement from the front office, but with a sound. A sound that starts slow, then builds. First from a small section behind the bench, then the corner of the dog pound, then the upper decks, then everywhere. Shadur, Shadur, Shadur. It's not just a chant. It's not just a call for hope. It's a rebellion waiting to erupt. Because when the Browns take the field against the Baltimore Ravens this weekend, they won't just be facing one of the league's most dominant teams, they'll be taking the field in front of a fan base that has completely lost its patience. And this time, they're turning the fire inward. The Ravens are no joke. Led by the electric Lamar Jackson, a former MVP who turns broken plays into highlight reels, Baltimore can embarrass even good teams in a matter of minutes. And against this struggling Browns squad, with a lifeless offense and a quarterback teetering on the edge, they'll be smelling blood. Cleveland is coming in as a heavy underdog at home. The line isn't just a prediction, it's a warning. Because in games like this, when expectation meets frustration, something usually gives. And when that crowd sees Dylan Gabriel line up again for the first drive, all eyes will be watching for one thing. Is anything different? If Gabriel stumbles out of the gate 3 and out, short arm throws, sacks a pick, the atmosphere inside that stadium will shift instantly. The boos will come early, and they won't wait for halftime. Even worse, the chanting. That's the thing head coaches fear the most. Not the media, not the film reviews. The moment players can hear the fans calling for someone else, that's when it all unravels. And make no mistake, if Gabriel starts slow and the offense looks anything like what it's looked like for the past month, those chants for Shadur Sanders, they'll come fast. They'll echo off the walls of that stadium like a war drum. And once they start, Stefanski won't be able to silence them with a clipboard or a headset. Because the anger isn't just about Gabriel anymore, it's about everything. The season, the coaching, the years of failed quarterback gambles that never seem to end. The growing sense that this franchise keeps making the same mistake over and over again, and this time, there's actually a kid in uniform who might give them something different. Even if it doesn't work, even if he struggles, even if it's just a flash, at least it would be a change. The Ravens are coming into Cleveland with one mission: to dominate. And if Lamar starts carving up the Browns' defense early, if Baltimore goes up by 2, maybe 3 scores, Stefanski's ability to ignore the calls for Sanders becomes nearly impossible. Then the real pressure begins. Not from fans, not from analysts, but from inside his own team. Because you better believe there are players in that locker room who've been watching Sanders in practice. They've seen the throws, they've seen the composure, they've seen things the public hasn't. And when the ship is taking on water, do you think those players are going to stay loyal to a plan that's already sunk? Kevin Stefanski is walking into a no-win situation. If he plays Gabriel and the offense gets blown out, he's crucified for being stubborn. If he switches to Sanders in the middle of the storm, it looks like he panicked, like he only made the move because he had to, not because he actually believed in it. Yet, the longer he waits, the fewer fans will give him the benefit of the doubt. This game against this opponent in this stadium under this much pressure is the Browns' breaking point. There are only 2 outcomes from here. Either this Sunday becomes the moment where Shadur Sanders is finally unleashed, or it's the day the fans, the locker room, and the entire organization turn completely on Kevin Stefanski and never look back. Because this story is no longer about one struggling quarterback. It's about a franchise teetering between another lost season and a long overdue turning point. At some point, you stop asking, should Shadur Sanders start? And you start asking something much bigger. What happens if the Browns don't even find out what they have? Because this isn't just some media-churned QB controversy or a back-page debate. This is a full-scale, franchise-defining decision, and every day they delay it, the Browns get one step closer to making the wrong move in the worst possible situation. Let's lay it out clearly. The Cleveland Browns are heading into one of the most critical off-seasons in the modern era. Despite the mess on the field, the front office holds a powerful weapon: 2 first-round picks in the upcoming draft. That's capital you don't get often, and when used correctly, it can flip the entire trajectory of a franchise. But here's the catch. To make smart moves, you need clarity. And right now, the Browns have the exact opposite at the most important position in sports. They don't know if Dylan Gabriel is salvageable. They don't know if Shadur Sanders is their future. They don't even know if they need to spend a top pick on a quarterback or if they're sitting on a hidden gem they've ignored all season. And that uncertainty? It's dangerous. Because in the NFL, indecision isn't just inefficient, it's expensive. Let's say they don't play Sanders. Let's say they roll into the offseason with nothing but practice reports and scout team film. What happens then? They're gambling in the dark. Maybe they blow a first-round pick on a QB they didn't need. Maybe they pass on weapons or linemen that could have supported Sanders, if only they'd bothered to test him. Maybe they sign a veteran free agent like Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold to bridge the gap, spending millions on a position that was waiting for them on a rookie contract. That's not strategy, that's roulette. Every smart franchise in the modern NFL, from the Chiefs to the Eagles to the Dolphins, built around information. They knew what they had, made smart draft plays around their quarterback, and shaped the locker room with confidence, not confusion. Meanwhile, the Browns are still guessing. And the worst part? The answer has been right there suited up, sitting quietly, ready to go. Because Shadur Sanders isn't just a developmental prospect. He's a known unknown loaded with college film, leadership traits, and a skill set that could match Sean Payton's words from last offseason. This guy's a Sunday starter. So why on earth wouldn't you play him? Even if he struggles, even if he throws picks, even if the game looks too fast right now, so what? That's data. Real data. That's film you take into the war room during draft week. That's proof you either believe in or walk away from with confidence. And that's exactly what separates smart teams from clueless ones. But here's the real kicker. If you take this decision into next season unresolved, if Stefanski or whoever replaces him walks into 2026 without knowing whether Sanders is the guy, you're not just back to square one. You're setting fire to the entire rebuild, again. And Browns fans know it. They've seen this cycle play out for decades. A quarterback carousel that never slows down. Draft picks wasted, first-rounders flamed out, bridge quarterbacks who never cross anything but the team's cap space into oblivion. This was supposed to be different. Shadur Sanders represents more than just a fresh arm. He's the first quarterback in years who checks the two boxes Cleveland always skips. High upside, rookie contract value. A winning pedigree rooted in pressure, media heat, and expectations. And unless you give him a legitimate look this season, you risk heading into the biggest draft you've had in 5 years without a clue whether you're drafting a building block or replacing someone you never even tested. It's that simple. Sanders might not be elite. He might just be average. Or maybe, just maybe, he's the steal of the draft, buried 5 rounds too late and overlooked by a staff more obsessed with caution than creation. But the biggest mystery? You still don't know. And the clock's almost out. Every franchise has a moment like this. A moment when the season slips away, the fans turn restless, and the spotlight moves from the field to the front office. Not because of injuries, not because of losses, but because of silence. Because of indecision, when the path forward is right there clear as day, and yet no one has the guts to step into it. For the Cleveland Browns, that moment is now. This isn't just about Dylan Gabriel's poor play. It's not even just about Shadur Sanders' NFL potential. This is about a franchise that's been haunted for decades by one repeating pattern, refusing to confront hard truths before it's too late. If you've been a Browns fan for any stretch of time, you can feel it in your bones. All the years spent hoping the next first-rounder would finally solve the quarterback curse. All the games where sure wins slipped through bad decisions. All the off-season hype followed by mid-season surrender. And now, with Shadur Sanders the most intriguing rookie name to hit Cleveland since Baker lit up the league for half a season, they find themselves once again hesitating. Freezing. Waiting for what? A miracle turnaround from a third-round quarterback who clearly isn't ready? Another loss to justify the obvious choice? There's no more logic in delay. No strategic upside. No long game to play. The season is lost. The offense is broken. The locker room is fragile. And the fan base is done waiting. But here's the twist in this story, the reason this moment matters more than all those failed QB experiments of the past. This time, they have an option. Shadur Sanders isn't some practice squad call-up. He's battle-tested. He's sharpened under pressure since high school. He's the son of Deion Sanders, a Hall of Famer, a cultural icon, and maybe the most media-scrutinized father in the entire sport. And somehow, Shedeur has handled it all with maturity, with poise, and with silence. Not once has he complained. Not once has he slipped in front of a mic. He's showing up, suiting up, staying ready. But even quiet players reach a breaking point, and even fan bases reach a moment where loyalty turns into outrage. That fuse is lit and it's burning straight toward this Sunday's kickoff. Because when Sanders finally takes the field, and make no mistake, he will, it won't just be a quarterback entering the game. It'll be something larger. A fan base getting a spark of hope it's been denied all season. A coaching staff facing consequences it tried to outrun. A franchise finally confronting the question it's been avoiding since draft night. What if the guy we've been looking for isn't next year's pick but already here? This is more than a depth chart debate. This is a legacy moment. For Kevin Stefanski, it could be the decision that writes his exit headline. For Shadur Sanders, it could be the beginning of a journey no one saw coming but everyone will remember. And for the Browns, it could finally be the pivot point in a long, painful history of quarterback failure. It could be another entry in the story Cleveland fans know all too well, one filled with second-guessing, missed timing, and playing it safe when boldness was the only way forward. The NFL doesn't wait. Seasons roll on. Mistakes multiply. And sometimes, the biggest risk is the one you never actually take. So whether it happens in week 10, 11, or 13, understand this. The moment Shadur Sanders steps onto that field won't just be a debut, it'll be a reckoning. So, how this chapter ends, we're all about to find out. But Browns fans? They've already made up their minds. If you're a Browns fan who's been screaming for change from the couch, hit that like button. If you want to see Shedeur start, drop A in the comments. And if you think Stefanski's running out of time, let us know your honest thoughts below. This isn't just sports, this is Cleveland football. It's personal.